My name is Helen and I'm 70 years old. I never thought the house next door, empty for years, would lead to a moment that would shift something deep inside me. For the past decade, life had been quiet, predictable. After my husband passed, I stayed in the same home we had shared for almost 40 years. I tended to the roses in the backyard, wrote in my journal, and occasionally treated myself to small pleasures. Chamomile tea, soft jazz, a warm bath in the evenings. But if I'm honest, the silence had started to feel too loud. I wasn't expecting anything to change. Certainly not on that gray Wednesday morning when I noticed a small moving truck pull into the vacant property next door. A young man stepped out briefly to tape something on the front door before getting back in and driving off. Curiosity got the better of me. After a few hours passed, I walked over. The paper on the door was from an estate company. Final items for pickup, enter freely. Property will be cleared tomorrow. Pause. That house had once belonged to a man named Walter, a reclusive old widower I had only spoken to a handful of times before he passed away nearly a year ago. I never knew him well, but something about the open-door invitation stirred something in me. I stepped inside. The house was dim, draped in dust and quiet, but not abandoned. Several boxes were stacked near the entrance, clearly waiting to be hauled away. The air smelled like old paper and cedar. I wandered deeper, my footsteps soft against the wooden floor. It felt strangely intimate, walking through another person's life like that. In what used to be the living room, I found a worn armchair, a record player, and a small table with a porcelain lamp. On the table lay a single leather-bound notebook, its corners frayed. I hesitated. Then I opened it. Inside were short passages, notes really. Observations, reflections, memories. Some were only a sentence long. Others spilled over the page. And as I read, I began to realize this wasn't just a notebook. It was a map of a man's heart. One entry stood out. To the woman next door who always smiles when she waters her roses, your presence has brought more warmth to this house than you'll ever know. Froze. I didn't realize I had tears on my face until one dropped onto the page. I sat in that chair for nearly an hour, reading pieces of a man I barely knew, and yet who had watched my quiet routines, seen me as more than just a widow behind a fence. The final page simply read, "Some people save you by just existing near you. If this notebook is ever found, I hope it makes someone feel less alone." Took it home. Not out of theft but preservation. I placed it on my nightstand, where it remains to this day. The next morning, I baked muffins and placed them in a small box with a note that said, "Thank you for leaving something behind." I left it on the front porch of that house before it was cleared. In the weeks that followed, I felt a shift. I began walking every morning instead of once a week. I lit candles in the evening instead of settling for dim overhead light. I even printed out a few of my own journal entries, something I'd never dared to share. Because somewhere in that dusty notebook, a stranger reminded me of something I had forgotten. That we are all seen, even in our quietest moments. And sometimes the most unexpected gifts come not from loud arrivals, but from silent departures.